Good afternoon and welcome. Fellow trustees, President Burke, Tom Sturges, members of the community. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Berklee, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Tom Sturges as our second Zaffris Distinguished Lecturer. The James G. Zaffris Jr. Distinguished Lecture Series was founded by the Board of Trustees 2 years ago to honor James Zaffris. As chairperson, Jim contributed significantly to the leadership of the Board of Trustees, and he's still a most active leader of the Institutional Advancement Committee as well as the Committee on Membership. The trustees considered establishing Berklee's first speaker series a very, very high priority, and I'm pleased to note that we received our first significant leadership gift of the fund from Lawrence Burke, founder of the college. Such support recognizes the importance of establishing an annual education partnership between music industry figures and our students and faculty. With such a practical base of support, our music business management majors, indeed all Berklee students, will be better prepared to weigh ethical, business, and legal considerations as they begin careers in music. Thanks very much for coming. It's great to see such a full house here. It's sold out, as a matter of fact. Introducing Mr. Sturges will be Don Gorder, chair of our Music Business Management Program.
Thank you, Paul. Let me echo that. It was really great to see such a good turnout here today. Before I introduce our guest, I'd like to say a few words about the Music Business and Management Program, particularly for any trustees that are with us today in the way of just a little bit of an update. Since the program's inception in September of 1992, enrollment has grown, or shall I say exploded, from an initial 45 to the current 193. There are now 10 faculty teaching 15 new courses which have been brought online since then. More important than these statistics, I feel that the program is doing what it was designed to do, which is to provide students with a springboard into their careers. Qualities are emerging within the students which convince me that many of the music industry leaders of tomorrow will come from this program. This past summer, 13 students were out doing internships in Miami, New York, Los Angeles, and the Boston metropolitan area. All received glowing reports from their supervisors, who were impressed not only by their skills, but also by their personal qualities. One supervisor referred to her first Berklee intern as a breath of fresh air compared with those who had come from other programs. In addition, the Berklee Music Company is taking shape within the Senior Project Seminar, and I'm confident that it will grow to become a major force within the music industry microcosm of Berklee. Other new developments include our technology lab, complete with business software and online services such as broadcast data systems and Billboard Online. In addition, several students are targeting MBAs with Suffolk University through our acceleration agreement, and we are finalizing a cross-registration plan which will allow our students additional advanced placement in the MBA program. The faculty, of course, deserve much credit for the success of the program. Their commitment to excellence has been remarkable. I think they would agree that the joy of teaching at Berklee comes from the students who challenge us and continually give us feelings of pride. I might add, to those students who were on stage last night, this is another great source of pride for all of us. At this time, I'd like to recognize, are any of the music business faculty with us today? Sky is here. Any others? It's a very busy group. Back there, Ed is with us. All right. Okay, moving on. Our speaker today comes to us from Los Angeles, where he is president of Chrysalis Music Group. He received a Bachelor of Arts in Music from the University of California at Davis, where he played the clarinet and saxophone. His first position in the music industry was an internship at Arista Music Publishing Group. A month later, he was hired as a secretary in the copyright department, where he found that his knowledge and background in music and his ability to communicate complex musical ideas had brought him to the ideal career choice. Over the next 3 years at Arista, he was responsible for several cover songs recorded by Meat Loaf, Dionne Warwick, Casey and the Sunshine Band, and the Dells. He also placed a song called Heart and Soul with Huey Lewis and the News for an album which sold over 12 million copies worldwide. In 1983, he accepted a position at Screen Gems, which is now EMI Music, where he continued his success in catalog promotion, placing songs with Aretha Franklin, Pat Benatar, Julio Iglesias, Anne Murray, among others. He began at Chrysalis Music in 1985 and has been the company's president since 1991. During that time, the company's gross revenues have gone from under 2 million to over 8 million. The number of writers has increased from 26 to 57, and the number of employees from 5 to 16. Chrysalis Music includes the catalogs of Paul Anka and David Bowie, and its diversified portfolio of creative talent includes Billy Idol, Debbie Harry, Ian Anderson, Shaquille O'Neal, Smashing Pumpkins, many others. It is generally considered one of America's leading independent music publishing houses, involving itself early in the careers of writers and artists and playing a significant role in their discovery, development, and the establishment of their creative freedom. I'm pleased to present Tom Sturges.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the to the college for having me out here. Thank you to Don for taking such good care of me and driving me around. Got to work on those. He drives very fast. If you ever happen to be driving with him. I enjoyed that performance last night. Are any of the people who were performing last night in the audience right now? Okay. Oop, did I hear a meow? Oh, hey, yeah. You're going to bring me your demo, right? Isn't that what we talked about? Okay. I thought that was a fascinating thing to walk in and not only see all the students performing, but to see the faculty involved as well. I thought that was really tremendous, and I guess a good example of what you guys are trying to do here. Can I just ask how many of you are going to be in the first graduating class? The music business graduating class. Right. Congratulations to all of you. When I was coming up with the idea of what I wanted to say and what I wanted to talk about today, I tried to focus my remarks on a couple of different areas, but primarily I'm going to talk about what to do once you do get a job. Is this on the idea of whether to use a resume or not to use a resume, or what about a videotape? I mean, I'll let you, if you want to cover some of that in the question and answer session, I'm sure we'll have at the end. What I more wanted to focus on was, I'm going to assume that most of you are going to get jobs. Right? I mean, that's what you're doing here, right? You're preparing for a career. So let's assume that part of the decision is correct and that you are going to get to do the things that you want to do. So the major portion of what I'm going to talk about is how to be a good executive and how to work within the context of the music business. Does that sound agreeable to everybody? Or would you rather I focus on resumes and that kind of stuff? The latter. Okay, good. I may refer to these notes a little too much, but I wanted to say, first of all, that there is, according to the RIAA and the Music Publishers Association, there are 1.5 million jobs in the music business. The music business does a gross total worldwide of $33 billion. So surely there's jobs for everybody. Okay. As Don said, I was a student at University of California, Davis, and probably in much the same position as many of you are in now, which is hopeful and passionate and compassionate and intent on making the most of the opportunity that this college education is going to give you. And also to finding out if the decision that you ultimately made, you and your families made to come here to Berklee, and hopefully that'll turn out to have been absolutely the correct decision. Some of you have destinations as executives and artists. Some of you will be producers. Some will be performers. Some will be creators, and some will be controllers. The ideas that I'm going to try and talk about hopefully will make sense to people who are doing all those things. I gotta get rid of this, excuse me. I'm going to focus on 5 different areas that I think are vital to successful career as an executive. Okay, 5 areas that in the way I've lived my life, the way I've lived my professional life have been, I think, are the critical things, and if you can handle these things right, you have a shot at a good career. Goals, opportunities, decisions, relationships, and communications. Goals, opportunities, decisions, relationships, communications. Let's talk about, can I walk around? So nice to be here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. For my first number. Let's talk about goals. Are you graduating? Do you have any goals that you want to do? Are there things that you're hoping to be able to do? Do you have those set in your mind? Where is a graduating senior? Okay, what's your name?
Todd.
Todd? Hi, Todd. Okay, where do you want to be a year from now?
Some studio in New York.
A studio in New York. You want to be an engineer?
I want to produce eventually.
You want to be the producer?
But the big goal is to own a production company. My main
Yes,
dream
that's what I'm going after. What is the big goal? What is the goal if everything went really, really well? What would that goal be?
I'd own Sony.
Good to start small with these goals. Give yourself a place to go.
Actually, I'd like to have a production company and maybe open up a small label.
Okay. I think it's very, very important when you are imagining what your future is going to be, and also when you have a position in a business and it's your responsibility to make decisions for other people, you have to have a goal. It's vital. And there should always be 3 goals going at any one time. Your 1-year goal, your 5-year goal, your 10-year goal. Okay? This is critical, and I'll tell you, I'll explain this, explain why. You cannot have a journey without a destination. You have to have a place that you're going so that you can know what steps you are taking are getting you there. All right? So you have to formulate that. You have to figure out what it is that you want to do. Because on the one hand, just graduating is a goal. And on the one hand, just getting through this part of your life is a goal, which is acceptable. I'm not saying that that's not. But at the same time, what do you want to be doing in 1999? I mean, that's only 5 years from now. And what about 2004, when you'll be presumably in your mid-30s, right? So I think that's a vital thing to be able to do, is to find the goal for your life. Your goal will be the destination of your life. Where's another graduating senior? You're going to graduate in May?
Mm-hmm.
What is your 1-year goal?
We started a landed job with either like a major publishing company, started working with some artists, or distribution branch.
Okay. What is your 5-year goal?
To work with enough artists to where I can maybe land a position at the regional A&R, possibly.
Okay. And your 10-year goal?
Eventually, save up enough income so that I can start my own label and publishing company.
And if everything went so well that you were the subject of a Forbes piece, what would your goal be?
To give back what I've learned and to continue to keep going forward.
Okay. There are no wrong answers, right? And every answer that you would give to these questions would be individual to all of you. I just think it's very, very important to ask yourselves the questions, because you can't get to where you're going if you don't know where you're going. It's not enough to be enthusiastic. It's not enough to say, God, I really want this. What? Well, you know, this. You have to know where you're going. It's a critical issue. Okay. Next, opportunities. What is an opportunity? An opportunity is something that you find on the way to your goal. My dad said that Opportunity has one hair on his head, and you have to grab it as he's walking by. And I think that that's very true. An opportunity is so rare and so precious and so easily overlooked. Right? I mean, that if you don't know when it's coming, if you don't see it coming, I mean, for an example in my life, when I was at Davis, right, I thought I was going to be an orchestra conductor. And I thought I was going to be a fine orchestra conductor. I mean, all the early earmarks were great. I was in the symphony, I was in the choir, I was the teaching assistant, I had my own baton. I mean, I had everything, right? I graduate from Davis and I find out that it just doesn't really matter that I could conduct to a CD all of Beethoven's Sixth Symphony. Who cares, right? Nobody cared. So I found out I couldn't get a job doing the dusting the music stands at the Long Beach Civic Light Association. I mean, I had no opportunity. Nothing. Okay, so I drove a cab for a year. I sold wallpaper. This is with a degree in music, mind you. It did not feel good. Would you like the chintz in your bathroom, or are you thinking more of a striped thing? Wasn't good for me. So I went to UCLA and I devoted a year to furthering my music studies, right? And then an opportunity showed up. I was in this institution of higher learning, and an opportunity showed up in the form of an ad at the Opportunities Board. Right there at this whole big thing, football, cheerleaders, Schoenberg Hall, a little 3x5 card. Interns wanted at Arista Music. How did I know that was a great opportunity? I didn't. I went in, I said I could do this. They said, okay, fine, you can do this. Do some filing for us, do this kind of thing. And I did. There was a lady down the hall who had a great job. Her name was Linda. I had to get her coffee. I had to schedule her lunches. And this is after I got the job there. And I said, now what job is that? What's the one that she's doing where she comes in anytime she wants, she gets a car, she gets to travel, and I'm kissing her butt. What? What's that job? Oh, that's the song player. That's the professional manager. I was like, I want to do that. How do I get to do that job? And ultimately, I squeezed my way onto the team, by doing something for nothing, doing something I wasn't being paid to do, showing how enthusiastic I was, and I ended up getting a few covers. The crucial point here is that it was an opportunity. Did it look like an opportunity at the housing board or the opportunity board at UCLA? No, it was a 3x5 card. But in my life, it was a crucial opportunity because I made the most of it. Okay, this is the thing I'm talking about. You have to recognize these things as they come to you. And you have to, here's the thing, if you know where you're trying to go, you will be able to see an opportunity as it presents itself to you. Okay. Decisions. Decisions are what you do with your opportunities. Decisions are the most critical thing that you will work on and will affect your life. How you make your decisions. Where's that graduating senior? Todd. How do you make a decision? How do you make a really, really important decision in your life?
Usually I go on first impulse, and then I think about it, and I usually go when I first thought in the first place.
So you have an instinct about something,
Yeah, it's usually an instinct.
right, and do you always go with your instinct?
No, sometimes it's too risky. You have to weigh the risk against the benefit.
I think how you make your decisions, the manner in which you make your decision, nobody can teach you how to make a decision. But you have to make so many of them. And how you make those decisions, and how you're going to get from your 5-year plan to your 10-year plan, depends on what kind of decisions you make when you're in there. Let's talk about how to make a decision, okay? As an actual practical business thing. I make a lot of decisions every day. Right? I'm running an $8 million a year company. I got to decide not only the personnel issues, the creative issues, I got to make a lot of decisions. So I have worked out some ways of making decisions. Some people do the T-bar, right? The T, and this is all the reasons I should do this, and this is all the reasons I should do that. And then other people do like a pro and con list. Other people survey all their friends. Yeah? You know, you do, hey, I got this thing. What do you think? Right? And I don't know that any of those are bad necessarily. I'm not saying that any of those are bad ways to make a decision. But I think decisions, especially big decisions, are very private things. Very private things to do. What I like to do, this is my method of making, one of my methods of making a decision, is to make the decision in private and not to tell anybody for a day. So I get to live with it. How does it feel? Right? So if I'm going to decide, for example, 2 months ago I was offered a wonderful, wonderful job to go be president of Virgin Music. A lot of money, all the juice, everything. You guys, every one of you would say, take the job. Are you nuts? In the end, I decided not to take the job. It was the most difficult decision I've ever had to make. Ultimately, it came down to me on my lifestyle, the quality of my existence, the quality of my life with my son, my wife, my family. So, to make this decision, you make it on your own. You make it in private, and you gauge your emotional reaction to this decision. So let's say you're going to make a decision, Todd, on whether or not you're going to go to Hollywood and pursue a career as a film scorer, or you're going to go to New York and pursue a career as an engineer / producer. Two choices, two excellent choices, two great possibilities. How are you going to make that decision? God. But so many things will change as a result. So many things will be in place as a result. You make it in private. You make it just for you. You don't tell anybody. And then you base your decision on your emotional reaction to your decision. You with me? Because your heart will tell you. Your heart will tell you. You got to be able to listen to your heart and listen to your instinct. Your instinct is your great guide, ladies and gentlemen, to all the things that you have to do. It doesn't matter how much you can get out of a book. It is your instinct that will guide you from this room to rooms like the room I sit in every day. It is how well you do, how well you understand your instinct, your individual contribution. Okay? I think that most huge decisions make themselves. It becomes painfully obvious that you should not be with the person you're with romantically. Right? It just becomes so damn obvious because you're having an argument every day. Right? The decision makes itself if you want to choose to hear what's happening. Or if you've convinced yourself that you should move, you should go to a different college, you should pursue your postgraduate degree. Right? If it's the wrong decision, you will know. You will know. So, got to be able to make the decision. And that's my method, to make it in private, to make it based on how you feel and how you would react. Now, it's frequently the case that you make the right decision for the wrong reason. Or you make the wrong decision for all the right reasons. How many times has that been? You go, okay, there's this, there's this, there's this. Okay, I'll do it. And then you're like standing in 6 feet of mud. Because it ended up being the wrong thing to do. It happens. It happens. Let's talk about relationships. This is the most accurate measure of how you are living your life. It's your relationships. Right? You want to know how you're doing? Look around you. You're in this wonderful institution. Right? People who want to learn, people who want to understand, people who want to teach you. What a fantastic place. So if you wonder if you're doing okay, yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great. This is the last time you will be in this kind of circumstance. When you Because you get into a job situation like mine where not only are people rooting for you to not succeed, people are rooting for you to fail so that there's room for them. That's a terrible feeling. That's a terrible feeling. Where you can go to somebody and say, hey, how do you think I'm doing? Or what do you think we should do? And they'll give you counsel based on the fact that they want you to stumble. Oh. And suppose you trust that counsel. Go, yeah, this is somebody who wants to help me out. Oh yeah, I'll help you right out the door. The relationships that you establish will be the most valuable assets of your career. Let me repeat that. The relationships that you establish will be the most valuable assets in your career. Because these are the people who will stand up for you when it's all coming down. These are the people who will recommend you for other jobs when somebody calls. These are the people who will let you know when you're screwing up. Because it happens. Right? Some people say that friendships are the product of time and need. You know, you can have the guy who lives next door to you for 20 years. You never need him, but you just kind of gently bump into him every once in a while, and he becomes kind of a friend. And then there's the guy you're stuck in a lifeboat with, who knows first aid and can fix that cut on your leg. And that guy is your closest friend. Right? Important to recognize it. Some friendships last a day. Right? Some friendships last a day. Some friendships last a lifetime. At the same time you're going to make friends, you're going to make enemies. It's inevitable. It happens. No matter how nicely you try and make it, you're going to make your enemies. And how are you going to make your enemies? You're going to make your enemies during your exits. Right? During your exits is when you make your enemies. You know, you have a great relationship going on with somebody, and then you say, you know, I'm out of here. They can't help but take it personally. You've betrayed them. I had the first guy who hired me, who was a lovely guy, who still won't speak to me. Right? He hired me, he paid me $11,666 a year in 1980. That was $225 a week. 3 years later, after I'd had a worldwide #1 record that brought in over $2 million, I got an offer to go to Screen Gems. I was up to 16 grand by that point. I got an offer to go to Screen Gems for $32,000. This is in 1983. And I went to my boss and I said, hey, I'll split the difference between what you're paying me and what they want to pay me. Split the difference and I'll stay. So pay me half of what I'm worth. The guy, he insulted my mother. He insulted everything about me. You traitor. I gave you an opportunity. You're screwing. It was so awful to sit there and have this man say these things to me, right? Because maybe on the one hand there was an element of truth, though not much. I knew I had done great for this guy, and you know, I was moving on. At any rate, he's one of my enemies, this guy. I saw him a week ago as he was getting into his Volkswagen. I drove by in my Porsche. Beep, beep. Okay, so we're not friends. All right. You get as many friends as you can handle. Okay? You get no more than 5 enemies. Okay? Write this down. You don't get more than 5 enemies. Because what happens is with 5 enemies, people can start bumping into each other. All right? You never want that. You want when people bring your, you're familiar with that expression, damning somebody with faint praise? Or somebody's name will come up in a meeting, and they'll turn to you and go, hey, what do you think of Phil? Phil's great. And you kill Phil. Phil's in a puddle in the middle of the floor. Okay? As many friends as you can handle, 5 enemies. Now, last weekend, I had an enemy. And this is awful to me, because I'd say it's 5 in a career. I had a writer who had been with me for 5 years. We've had cuts on Boys to Men. We've had cuts on Calling Me Bad. I helped him establish a production company. I kept him out of a restaurant. That was a really good thing I did for him. I kept him out of that restaurant. At any rate, I said something stupid. Okay? I offered this guy a ton of money to stay with me for 3 years. A ton. And he was like, no, I'm not interested. I think I can make more on my own. I don't need you. I don't need your money. Now, my money was already guaranteed because we got a cut on the new Boys to Men album, so I wasn't taking a huge risk. It was already kind of solid. I said to the guy, what do I have to do, call your mother? Wow. Wow, was that the stupidest thing I've ever said to an angry man? And that meeting turned into a disaster right before my eyes, to the point where his 2 friends were restraining him as he was like, got his eyes like watering as he's looking at my golf club. It was a terrible, terrible situation. And you know what? I'm supposed to be good at this. I'm supposed to be good. I'm supposed to be able to go to somebody and convince him, hey, I want you here at my company. But this guy, because I've known him since he was 17, I've been to his mom's house. When his first record went gold, I got his mom a copy. I mean, it wasn't just like an idle comment. It was a stupid comment. So I had to resolve it, and I consulted with a couple of people. And even though I didn't think I was wrong, this is where a lot of people mess up. They go, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I just said, what do I have to do? Ask your mother? And I could stand all by myself and say, I didn't do anything wrong, while this guy hates my guts and thinks I insulted him and everything else. So I called him. I left a message of apology on his answering machine because I knew he wouldn't talk to me. And I bought him tickets to a football game. I kissed this guy's butt. Right? Because it was more important to me that he leave my life neutral than anything else. You make your enemies during your exits. Okay? And I kissed up to him. I saw him yesterday. He stopped in the office for a minute. Did we hug? No, we didn't hug. We probably won't hug again. But you know what? We did shake hands. So he's going to leave my company now as a neutral place. Right? Neutral is better than enemy. Relationships within companies. Right? How do you have a good relationship within a company, within the framework of a business? This is very, very important, because it's so easy to piss people off. Right? You don't usually do it on purpose, right? How many times do you do it on purpose? When was the last time somebody was angry with you? Do you remember? It doesn't happen that often? You're very lucky. Generally, I find that people get upset when you don't show them enough respect. When you don't show respect for what they do or what they have done. When you say I instead of we. When you go to the boss before you go to them, so that they get broadsided. Any of you ever been broadsided in a business arrangement? You know what that's like, to have your boss call and say mean, ugly things to you? So the way to establish that good relationship, once you get your job, once you have that business, is to show respect and be polite to those people that you're working with. Okay, so I just want to say again, relationships are everything if you're going to have a successful career in business. Okay, it's everything. You have to treat every relationship as an opportunity. This is part of your your core group, your team, your bunch of guys and women. I'm in the class of 1980 is how I look at it. That's when I joined the music business. And all the kids who came up with me, hey, you know what? I mean, we're all kind of big guys now, right? We're all making decisions. We're all capable of doing these things. And I stayed close with these guys. I showed them respect. When they got a promotion, I sent them a card. Have I broken bread with most of these people? Probably, but, I don't think any of them have been to my house. That's not the issue. You don't have to come to my house to earn my respect. I can send you a little note. So Warwick becomes head of something, you know what? He's going to get a note from me. And he's going to remember that. It's going to add to the quality of that relationship. Right? What a lot of people will do is they'll do their job when they have their job as though that's the only thing that they're supposed to be doing. Okay? It's not that. It's how well you work with the other people at your company, how well you work as a team. And I discussed enemies. Okay, let's talk about communications. This is how you establish and develop your relationships with people. We were talking at lunch, I was talking about how I run my office, right? Because I've been there 9 years now. I've hired every employee. I've signed every writer. So it's as close to a reflection of my twisted personality as there can possibly be. And one of the things that we do in my office is we run my office, we run it on a stress-free basis. We avoid stress by avoiding surprises and avoiding crises as much as possible. One of the critical ways of doing this is that I have it in the company manual that you have to say please and thank you on everything. I know it sounds juvenile, right? It sounds very, very juvenile, but you know what? It works. And please at the end of a sentence makes it a request, not an order. And that's how I like it in my office. I want you to come in here right now and bring me that Smashing Pumpkins tape, please. Hard to get outraged when you're thanking somebody. Thank you for blowing this. I know you didn't mean to erase the tape. I had a situation where Paul Anka, who's one of our writers, one of our catalogs that we own, I don't know why he decided that I was capable of making this copy. Not I, but I, my company. So he provides the DAT copy. It's the only copy in the world of Paul duetting with some Brazilian children's choir, You're Having My Baby, half Spanish, half English. So he brings this tape by, I hand it to the tape guy. Would you mind making a DAT copy of this, Mike? I say. 10 minutes later, that tape was completely blank. Oh. 10 minutes later, we didn't have that in our possession. 15 minutes, we had ruined it. Thank you for telling me you've just erased the tape. What do you do? Right? What can you do? Okay, let's say there was a crisis. That's actually my next section, but we'll talk about it here. What do? You tell him. The first second, when there's a disaster, tell the guy whose disaster it is. Let him know. There's nothing worse than having a disaster that's like an old, smelly disaster. A fresh disaster is pretty bad. Hey, I just drove your car into the lake 2 weeks ago. It's a whole different thing. So, please and thank you. Okay, now I'm going to save somebody's career with this next little nugget. Okay? This is a Lee, what is the word? Is it aphorism? Have I got that word right? A-P-H-O-R-I-S-M?
Yeah, perfect.
Whatever that is, I think this is an aphorism. It's a Lee Iacocca. It's a two-part Lee Iacocca business tool. Number one, if you have something good to say, put it in a letter. If you have something bad to say, put it in a phone call. crucial. It's good, put it in a letter, because you know what? People put them up on their walls, they're reminded of them. Oh, Tom sent me this nice letter. You ever read an angry letter, like a couple days later? I am so upset with you. You did the, I mean, God, it sounds so awful. Okay, so that's part one. Good to say, put it in a letter. Bad to say, put it in a phone call. Second part, okay, let's say it's not appropriate to put your bad thing in a phone call. Let's say you're just compelled to bitch. That would be an album title. You just... Let's say you just have to put it in a letter. The crucial point here, you ready? Never send an angry letter on the day it was written. I want to hear pens writing this down. You committing this to memory? I could save you a job, and I'll tell you why, because it almost cost me money. I was at Davis, and my professor, and I don't know where it became my responsibility to change the way the world works, but somebody's got to do it. It was a music history class, and the professor had assigned to everybody a certain era. And a guy named Steve Mackey, who is now head of composition at Princeton and still a pretty good friend of mine, he was the first guy, because he was our standout, guy. And he was standing up here, and the professor was sitting where Warwick is, gesticulating and fixing every, if he missed a date. No, Beethoven died in 1827, and just correcting through the whole lecture. And why did I feel compelled to write him a letter about that? Number one, why did I feel compelled to be such a snot about it? Number two, why did I mail it on the day I wrote it? Number three, and why didn't I sign it? I mean, everything you could possibly do wrong in a written communication, I did. Unfortunately, this guy handled it. I wrote him a letter, said, gosh, it was really offensive what you did in class this morning. I mean, what was I thinking when I didn't sign my name? There were only 7 people in the class. Handwriting samples alone could get it down to 1 or 2. Oh. And he came up to me and he said the same thing that I read later in the Lee Iacocca book, which is never send a letter on an angry day. Okay? And you got to stop yourself. If you find yourself writing a pissy letter, great. Write it, exercise it, get the demon out, go back the next day. Does everybody understand? You sense that I'm saying that this is a very important thing in business communication? This is a very, very important thing as part of the relationships that you're establishing, as part of all the things that you're going to do. I think one of the worst words in business, one of the most defeating words in business is the word because. Because the reason why is this. When you explain how you know something, particularly when you're early in a gig, particularly where it's not chemical engineering, it's a groove thing, it's a gut thing, it's a feel thing, you explain why you love it, and you have explained the limits, you have pointed to the limits, the outskirts of your knowledge. All right? Say we're sitting in an A&R meeting. What's your name?
Right.
Okay, Brian, we're sitting in an A&R meeting, and I say, Brian, what do you think of this? What I'm looking for is, I love it, I hate it, it's pus, whatever word you want to use. You say to me, well, when I bought the Red Hot Chili Peppers album, they had a song on it that was reminding me. And all of a sudden you explain to me, you think you're explaining what you know, you're explaining what you don't know. Nothing wrong with explaining what you feel. If you explain the why of why you feel it, you have limited yourself. You're sitting in a meeting with me, I say, so what do you like about this tank? And you explain that or for whatever reason that you love it. As soon as you explain why you love it, though, this is a subtle difference. because it reminds me of this, or because it's like this. As soon as you start putting because in, you are saying, this is as far as my knowledge goes. And nobody has the right to know the limits of your knowledge but you. It's subtle, but it's very, very an important issue, especially if you're going to get into a creative field, where you're going to get into a discussion where an intangible is more important, right? We're talking the music business, right? We're talking a business where enthusiasm can actually count for something. Where if you came in, Brian, to my office and stood on my desk and said, if you don't give me the $250,000 that I need to sign this band, I'm going to commit harikiri right here. And here's the knife. I'm going to be like, okay, let's listen to the tape. Let's see, what are you feeling so crazy about? Because good executives, and I like to consider myself one, we try to back other people's decisions. I don't want to be making the A&R decisions. I'm too old. I'm 38. Right? I am already 25 years older than the person I'm trying to sell a record to. I don't want to be making that judgment. Hey, man, it grooves. We have a policy at our company that you can't sign anybody who's older than you are. Now, is this in concrete? No. And it's not age discrimination. I signed a 42-year-old guy the other day. I'm talking a new talent, right? Somebody who's never done anything. And I'll tell you why, because it's my belief that genius shows up early, right? In pop music, in classical music, in greatness, genius is frequently there early. And for the kind of music that I'm looking to buy and invest in and be part of, I'm trying to sell this to babies. I'm trying to sell this to 12-year-old girls who live in the outskirts of Cincinnati, for example. Whatever they do, however they paint their nails, and where's the body piercer? Yeah, there he is. However they pierce their bodies, it's up to them. But that's who I'm trying to sell my records to. So I have an A&R person who's 25. I want her looking 25 and under. I have an A&R guy who's 21. 21 and under. He doesn't have a lot of choices. He doesn't do a lot of signings. Right? So, I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but there we are. So, we were talking about communications and how vital it is, the way you communicate, particularly early in your job, the way you communicate in an interview. Let me just jump into interviews for a second. Can I do that? There are questions that I ask people in interviews because I want to get them a little, I don't want to see them the way they're presenting themselves to me. You know what I mean? I don't want the perfect picture. I don't want the hair just so. I want to see you a little uncomfortable. I want to see you out of your element. So, let's say you and I are in a job interview. What's your name? Hey, Dan. Are you going to be a graduating senior?
I'll be a graduating senior next year.
Let me just talk to a graduating senior since they're so much closer to the firing line than you. A graduating senior? Nobody wants to volunteer. You're a graduating senior. What's your name? Hi, Sarah. A question I might ask you, for example, if you came in for a job, is I wouldn't ask you necessarily, the music you love and stuff like that, although we must remember to talk about the Clive Davis tape. I would ask you, for example, what was the last movie you saw? What was the last book you read? How's she doing? Who's the most important person in your life? Okay. Those are questions that I would ask, for example, because I want to break away from the resume in an interview situation. Right? Hey, Don, you leaving? Okay. No problem. The kind of questions that I want to do, I want to get past that thing where you as an you as an interviewee are comfortable. I want to get to where you're slightly uncomfortable, where we're getting to, not like personal issues, nothing like that, but just like out of your normal thing. So those would be questions, for example, that I would ask. Those are 3 questions that I always ask. Let's do the Clive Davis tape just as a quick aside. How many of you are going to try and be A&R people? Okay, good. And how many of you are graduating seniors who think you're going to be A&R people? The man in the black hat. Is it a man? I can't tell. So no, there's bright lights. You'll know if I'm insulting somebody. What's your name, please? Seth.
Yes.
Hi, Seth.
All right.
Well, how are you developing your A&R skills? What are you doing?
Listening to a lot of music, different, diverse types of music, and basically that's about it.
Okay.
What should I do?
That man just did a wise thing. He asked a question. Questions are the key to good business and good conversation. Very good, Seth. Here's what you should do. You should make up a Clive Davis tape. Everybody knows who Clive Davis is. He almost came here. But Don wouldn't spring for the chauffeur-driven limousine from the airport, and you got me instead. Thank you so very much. When Clive, and now me, and now a bunch of other people, are hiring people who are a creative-based job, right? How can you tell, how can you judge somebody's creative ability? Because you sit in a meeting, because you give me a good meeting? Because you say, oh, Tom, love them pumpkins. No, that's not what you want to hear. That's not what you want to know. That doesn't tell you anything, and it doesn't tell me anything. The Clive Davis tape is a past and future tape, okay? And I think for everybody who's doing a creative, who thinks they're going to be able to do this on an A&R basis, I think this would be a wonderful... Miss, there's a seat in front if you like. There's a seat right here. There's seats if you guys want. So here's the tape. Let's talk with the past tape. The first thing to do to put on this past tape is bands that should have been hits. Right? So the market's already proven you wrong. But you think they should have been great. If you had been an A&R guy, you would have signed this band. Right? And I'm not talking about looking back to the 70s. I'm not talking looking back to the 80s either. I'm talking if you're going to do this on an A&R basis, Seth, and you're going to send a tape to a guy like me, a letter to a guy like me, it better be current. Current is key. So and what this tape will show, let's say, for example, I mean, the best unsuccessful band in the last 2 years? Any suggestions? What's the most... Define unsuccessful. Well, some people say that a hit is number 7 with a bullet. Okay, Blues Traveler. Blues Traveler should have done a hell of a lot better. It's actually a good choice. Who said that? Dan. Rockin', Dan. Blues Traveler. Blues Traveler, considering the exposure they got, the quality of the record they made, I think they should have been huge. So Blues Traveler would be on your tape. Who else? You think they deserve to be successful? Okay, then Jellyfish would be on your tape. Who else? Amy Mann. Ooh. You were doing great up until then. No. If you think that she should have been, I think there were a lot more problems with that. That's not a case of injustice. I'm looking for musical injustices. I'm looking for people who would have changed the world had their records come out. Hot House Flowers. Good choice. Who said that? Can I come kiss you? Who said that? Very good. A guy who I signed, a guy who I believed in. One of my great tragedies is Jeffrey Gaines not having a hit record. Who else? Okay, we can stop there. We can, because the list could get endless, right? So this is one way to give yourself and people who you might want to, did you have more? Who? Who? Did you have another band or was it just a side comment? Oh, okay. If there's a great band, I want to know about it. The band for me that really, really should have happened is the Wallflowers. Wallflowers is Bob Dylan's son, Jacob. Probably one of the best rock records I've heard in a long, long time. And I thought it was an outrage. This would be like Tom Petty, his first album having come out and been a big stiff, and then the world would not have a Tom Petty. Because you know, when you're an artist, you make your second album differently if your first album was successful. Right? You do. You have a different approach to the world. You are a little higher up the mountain. You're a little prouder. You're a little more confident. And why did the Beatles get to be, were they that brilliant when they started? No. I don't think so. They had the seeds of brilliance, but what gave them the opportunity to have that specific point of view was that they were so successful and so confident. And they knew they could take those chances because they knew people were going to buy their records. So, on your Clive Davis tape, on the past section of your Clive Davis tape, it's the injustices. It's the musical talent that really should have been, you know, I'm not talking about Gerardo's second album. It should have been a big hit. Or Amy Mann, who I understand is from this area, and I love that first record she made when she was in that band. What was it? Till Tuesday, thank you. But I wouldn't put her on that list because I don't think that's an injustice, and it's nothing personal. I would say it to her. I think she deserves success, etc. But I'm talking musical injustices. That should be part one of your tape, okay? And now you can imagine if there are 6 or 7 bands on this tape, it's going to give you a very clear idea of what your ears are like. Would you agree, Seth? The other part of the tape, right, where the market hasn't proven you wrong yet, is bands that should be hits today. Right? Records that are out now that should be big records. And you would have to obviously keep updating this list, or if you're right all the time, you're just going to look like a chart scammer, right? What are some bands that should be happening today?
Cranberry.
Too late. They're already happening. Their album went gold. That would be a hit. Who? I don't know Melissa Farrick. Is she local? She put out a record? What label? Are you Lisa Farrick? Who signed it to Atlantic? Tim Summer signed it? I don't know Tim Summer. Can you make sure I get a copy of the record? Do you have a copy? Who did the publishing? These are crucial questions to a guy like me. What's another act that should break, that should happen? Who? Letters to Cleo. Very trendy. Who else? Liz Phair is pretty, I think once you get on the cover of Rolling Stone is Dr. Hook, so perfectly put it, not to split an infinitive. Who else? For Love Now, who said that? Ah, man, I could kiss you. I signed them too. I got 2 kisses I got to give out later. Who else? Don't know Paula Cole. Don't know either of them. Are these people with records out? Okay, these would be on your A&R tape, right? These would be, do you see how this could become a blueprint of your ears? That if somebody sat and listened to this tape, it would be like, okay, I can see what this guy thinks is good music. I have 2 anecdotes to relate about this. One guy who I was looking to do this with, I said, because the second tape, I said to him, not only do I want the bands that you think should be hits today, but I want the songs that you think they should be hits with. So it comes down to the 3 minutes. You know what the old saying that 3 minutes can change the world? Right? 3 minutes of a song can change the world, change the musical landscape, change everything. This guy's tape, every song was in major key, in a major key, and every song had like a big kind of Archie's lame-ass chorus. And I'm sitting, and this guy was a good candidate. I liked him. I lunched with this guy. And his tape was a disaster. Right? Because he showed me a lot of things. And I'll tell you, it's one of the great things, if any of you guys are, as your careers progress, having all that solfege and ear training, all that stuff, I can't tell you how helpful that is. All right? To be able to pick out a pattern of weakness in a writer who may look brilliant. They got a snazzy coat, they got a nice hat, they got rings everywhere, like you, for example. But let's say every bridge is in the flat six, right? And this is just the place where they stumble into, right? And you know, because you go, God, wait a second, you know that sound. And everyone's there, and you can pick it out. It's been such a help to me to be able to separate the posers, right? To be able to separate those posers. It will come in so handy, all that solfege in your training. The other example is a guy who I wanted to hire as an A&R guy, and his tape was brilliant. I love this guy's tape. So I say, hey, let's get together. May I take you to lunch? The guy says, sure. What's he going to say? He's looking for a job, and I'm looking for somebody to hire. What's he going to say? Okay. See you later. Thanks for coming. No, that's okay. Does anybody have to leave? Don't be embarrassed to leave. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Except for you. So this guy comes in for this lunch. This is just sort of a bad interview experience for this guy, right? He comes in for this lunch, and he talked himself out of a job. Would you like to know how he did it? Okay. Number one, he paid me a compliment that he couldn't back up. Some of you, I mentioned this to Don last night, some of you may know my father was a reasonably famous film director. So he says to me, hey, when I was in school, I studied your dad. I said, really? Which film? He brought it up. I did not bring it up, and I let that little saliva hang between his upper and lower lip. And I thought, oh, you poor stiff. What a stupid thing to say. And he's like, I said, well, it doesn't matter. Where'd you go to school, incidentally? He went to some, school. I said, what was the mascot? Go. And the guy goes, he couldn't remember. I'm like, what is it, the Fighting Gamecocks? The bow-legged chickens? Somebody. You remember? Oh. So that was strike two. All right? Because you know what it proved to me? He wasn't observant. He hung around all that time at his school. He did not notice the stinking mascot. How could he be a good A&R guy? How could he? If he can't even notice what color the sky is, how can he tell me if you have the soul of a poet? Strike three came, and this goes to the issue that you should always be truthful. Always, always be truthful, especially in your interviews like you were. I give you points for telling the truth that you don't read and you don't go to the movies. Okay, I'm taking those points back. Okay, you remembered your book? Or did I just make you uncomfortable by asking? Oh, what was your book? And your film? Oh, we'll come back. Just throw your hand up at any time. So, I did this kind of a cheesy thing to do. I admit that it's cheesy, but this guy was a slice of Limburger, and I just had about had enough. We're talking bands, right? And I'm saying, so you do a lot of listening to bands and music? He goes, oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm out all the time. And so I'm kind of up on this sort of thing, so I asked him about some bands that I knew about. And he seemed to know about all these bands, and he got the information. Yeah, oh yeah, Orange County, yeah. Mhm. Or some other little remark. And then I made up a band. And the band I made up, that name was not so different from the names that we were talking about. You know? Hey, you know White Punks on Dope? Oh yeah. Love them. I'm like, hey, can I tell you something? You know, what am I going to say? Why does it matter? But you know what? He lied to me. Right? He lied to me. He didn't mean to. He was just like, yeah, you're dead. Yeah, it was like, I mean, I saw this guy and I thought, you know that poster where they show somebody where they're getting stoned and they start with their head in their hands and then the head rips down onto the table? That's what this guy became. He became a drooling, gibbering little mess on my table. Let's talk about telling the truth, okay? The truth is not an absolute, okay? The truth will not protect you, and the truth will not set you free. It is important to know when to tell the truth, and it is important to know when to shut up. It is also important to never tell a lie. But there's a long way, a lot of distance between not telling the truth and telling a lie. Okay? I don't happen to be critical of people. Right? I just don't. I make it my policy that if somebody calls, even an employee who I have fired, I will say, you know what, I'm not comfortable discussing this. If another person calls and says, hey, I'm thinking of hiring so-and-so, I would rather say, I'm not comfortable. And they'll say, well, is there something bad? I'll say, no, nothing bad. I'm just not comfortable having the discussion. It's not up to them, okay? But I think it's very, very important to tell the truth when it comes to your knowledge and your understanding of things. That is vital. Right? So if this guy had said, White Punks on Dope, isn't that a Tube song? That's not a band. Oh. He would have pulled himself back. But you know what? He tried to lie to me. And in an A&R position, and in any executive position, as the boss, as the guy who has to go sit with the board of directors and explain where all that money went, I gotta have truth. I'm sorry, I gotta have the truth. Even if we screwed up. Okay, so we screwed up, so we gave this band $200,000 and we shouldn't have done it. Now that seems so perfectly clear. When their song was moving up the charts, it didn't seem so clear. When they were doing, Midnight Madness from Spring Break on MTV, it sure seemed like a great idea to give them that $200,000. But now that the record sold 15,000 copies, the guitar player is dead of an overdose, and the label dropped them, bad decision. Bad dog. Okay, so the truth is very, very important when it comes to your own knowledge. The truth is not as important when it comes to knowledge about somebody else. This goes back to this issue of relationships and having relationships with people. You don't want to be known as a trash talker, right? I'm not saying you got a glad hand and you got to kiss up and all that other stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying not necessary to ever talk trash about people. You don't know where they came from. You don't know what tragedies brought them to where they are, right? Anybody else have to leave? Don't be uncomfortable. It's okay with me. Okay, so we've talked about these 5 major issues that I think are important, that if you're going to have a successful career, you have to master these things. Goals, opportunities, got to make your decisions right, you got to have good relationships, and you got to communicate properly. Okay? Now, something that's going to happen through, what time is it anyway? I've lost my watch. What time did you want to get to the question and answer part? Like in 10 minutes? You guys want about 20 minutes, a half hour for questions? How many people are going to have questions they're going to ask them? All right, 1. Seth is 1, Dan?
It snowballs, Tom.
Okay. Well, with 2 questions, I'll leave a little drop of time at the end. Okay, so those 5 things, right? Those 5 things, if you can get that part right, I think you can have the opportunity for a good career. You have to be lucky, right? You can't deny luck, right? But one of the things that you have to manage perfectly in your career, you have to do this correctly, is, goodbye, is you have to manage your crises. You are going to have them, right? They're going to hit you from all sides. They are going to be unexpected. It's going to be the day you walk into your job and the tape room guy says, "Oh, I erased that tape." You erased the tape? Or the day that you get to the airport to see the band and you realize that you were listening to the wrong tape this whole time. You guys aren't mother, you're mothers, aren't you? Yeah, mothers. I hated the mother's tape. Right? There are crises that will happen. You cannot prepare for them other than to be aware that they must happen. So let's talk about how to deal with crises. You know when you guys study music and you study a large piece of music and you reduce it, you can reduce it to like 2 or 3 notes. Right? So if you reduce the Beethoven Symphony Number 5 to 3 notes, it would be, you know, the tonic, the dominant, back to the tonic, even though you've just summed up 30 minutes of genius into 3 notes. You're going to be able to sum up your lives based on your crises and how you handle them. For many of you, the first crisis will be getting out of school. Right? Am I right? It's a looming disaster for some of you. Oh my God, I got to finally prove that it was all worth it and I paid attention and I know what I'm doing. It is a crisis. I accept that it's a crisis. How are you going to deal with it? Where's a graduating senior? Where is he? Todd. Do you consider it a crisis, what's coming up?
Yeah,
An organized crisis.
yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose control.
Yeah, you want to try and handle it as best you can. How to deal with your crises. Number 1, don't lose it. The old expression, hold your mud. Whatever gardener first came up with that, he was a smart fella. You gotta hold your mud, because your crises are gonna happen, and so that's first and foremost. That you cannot freak out. It's not acceptable. Particularly, it's a bad trait in an executive. Somebody who runs down the hall screaming. Right? You don't want to turn to that guy in a bad moment. Steve? Steve? There will be 3 or 4, maybe 5, but probably 3 or 4 major crises in your life, in your business life. Okay? No more than that. It's vital to understand it when they are happening, to recognize, hey, you know what, I'm having a crisis. I have no money in the bank, I got a final paper due, and, you know, all the other things. Whatever it is. Got to recognize it and say, hey, here it is, I'm facing it. Now, number 1, and this is a crucial point. Anger, which is how a lot of people react to a crisis. They get mad. They get mad and what do? They blame the guy in the next chair. I told you we shouldn't have done that. What a stupid response that is. Right? As though it's not your fault. You're both in the lifeboat. It's taken on water. You're both going down. So, a crucial thing. Anger is a tool. Right? Anger is a tool. If I raise my voice in my office, I only have to raise it this much. Because I'm a calm guy. I talk in a quiet voice. And anger is a very, very expensive emotion for the person who's getting angry. Right? When you get angry, your stomach is full of bile, your body is full of adrenaline, you're twitching for the rest of the day. You can't get a damn thing done. The guy who cut you off, he's at the donut shop, he's relaxed, he's reading the paper, you're like this. So who caused who what? Right? The angry guy lost. Now I had a experience when I was very, very early. I was a secretary. This was in 1980, 81. I was a secretary for a visiting executive from Germany. And we needed to get some papers off to Germany. And, you know, this was before Federal Express was really as popular as it was. And it was like a big deal to get a package to Dusseldorf. At any rate, we're sitting there. It's like 6:30, 7, and I get the package delivery service on the phone. This is in front of my boss. And I just like ream this guy a new navel. I can't believe it. People are sitting around here wasting their time while you, I mean, this whole ugly, frothing, stupid display. But I didn't think it was at the time. I thought I was really like nailing this guy. I hang up the phone, and this guy who I'm trying to do this good thing for, he turns to me and he says, you know what, that was the most wasteful, idiotic thing I think I've ever seen somebody do. Oh, I was humiliated. Right? I had done my best job. I had put on my best angry act. Got myself all worked up and everything else. He said that was such a waste. And he told me what I'm telling you now. Anger is a tool. Anger is not an emotion. It is a tool in business. Subsequent to that time, that guy, it's a funny thing, out of that meeting, he became a very angry man. And he now throws things through television sets. And I'm here talking about being calm. It's very funny how that worked out. So, anger is a tool, not an emotion. Blame, your next reaction in a crisis, just worthless, unnecessary. I'd rather have a guy working for me who says, you know what? I screwed up. Right? I screwed up. That was my fault that this happened. Right? So going back to the Paul Anka disaster in his tape, right? The guy didn't blame it on the machine. He was sheepish. He felt awful. He didn't know I was going to react. He said, I made a mistake. I can accept that. I can accept I made a mistake. I welcome I made a mistake. I make them too. I just told you about that guy. I mentioned his mother. You think that was an intelligent thing to do? I've been doing this 15 years. I'm mentioning a guy's mother. Oh, stupid. So when he threw all the papers on my desk onto the floor, like this, like slowly and deliberately. I mean, what am I going to do? Blame him because I made a mistake? No. So blame is not part of it. In a crisis, courtesy is an absolute. Okay? Courtesy is an absolute. I'm going over this because you're going to be defined by your crises. Okay? When you didn't get the record in on time, when you miss the delivery date, when you miss the plane. God, oh, what a terrible thing. And you're supposed to get off the plane and go see the gig, and the gig's just for you, and there's no other plane to Duluth. Oh, right? It's a crisis, especially if your boss sent you and it's your first trip, and you miss the plane. Oh. Got to stand up and take it, kids. Got to say, I made a mistake. It's okay. Hopefully I will make fewer of them than the good things I'm going to do right now because we're fresh in this mistake. It looks like it's all I do. But I'll get past this. Before you express an opinion about somebody in a crisis situation, better to find out what relationship the person you are speaking to has with the person you are discussing. Right? So I say, or you say to me, hey, what do you think of old Bob? What do you think of Bob? You ask me that. And I say to you, how do you know him? Right? Because my opinion is going to be different. Right? If he's your blank, it's going to be different. It sounds like a small point, but you would be surprised how many times or how quick you will be to whip off with an opinion because you know something. Oh, and especially if it's a bad opinion. Oh, him, oh, he's such a jerk. Your dad, love him. What? I meant jerk in the nicest possible way. Uh-huh. Let me see. I think that's the conclusion of my prepared remarks. So let me just go over the headings so that I can do that thing where you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, then you tell them what you told them. What we talked about today was this issue that there are 5 key areas that make for a good executive, a good career in the music business. For me, a good life. But who am I to say that? I'm 38 years old. I'm a little early to start talking about life. Goals, a 1-year, a 5-year, and a 10-year. Vital to have them at all times. Opportunities, what you do on the way to your goals. Decisions, what you do about your opportunities. Do you recognize them? Do you give them credence? Relationships. The most important asset of your career, the relationships. And by the way, this applies in personal too. My most important, I have 2 vital relationships in my life. My relationship with my mom, my relationship with my wife. I have a lot of business relationships. I do 200 phone calls a day. But I have those critical relationships are vital for me. Communication. Please and thank you. Saying something bad, say it on a phone call. Got something good to say, put it in a letter. Never send an angry letter on the day you write it. Did I make this point so clear? Let me save you the shame and agony. And then the crises. The crises, the signposts of your life, the awful things. Some of the crises are awful things that you're going to have to do. Has anybody ever, well, I know you guys in the front row have, but has anybody ever had to fire somebody? Oh, what a nasty thing to have to do, right? What a nasty thing to have to do. Not only are you rejecting this person and their thinking and anything else, you're rejecting every part of them. So it's how you deal with your crises which will run through all these other parts of your life. Okay? So that's the conclusion of my prepared remarks. Do we have any questions? Yes. And say your name again. You're Dan?
My name's Dan.
Dan, right. Okay.
Let's see how I should phrase this. Most of, as far as being goal-oriented, most of the problems that I see with fulfilling goals are time management problems. I'm wondering if you could give any tips on some of the successful things you do to manage your time wisely, and how much of your time you have to spend aside from the office, fostering relationships and doing the things that help you towards your goals.
It's a good question. In business, there's a couple things you have to do. You got to return all your phone calls. It seems simple when you're not getting any. It's a little more complicated, and it's the criticism of me that is most valid, that I don't return enough of my calls, and I piss people off. Okay, so I recognize that that's a problem, and I don't have that organized well enough. I make the most of my phone calls. This is what I do. I don't lunch as a rule. I think lunch is, as Michael Douglas put it in, thank you. Lunch is for wimps. So I don't do a lot of lunching that way, and I try and be as truthful and make the most of my conversation when I'm in it. I was at a convention a couple of months ago, and it was like an interactive CD media convention. And I'm talking, you know Don Was? You familiar with that name? Okay, so I see Don Was. I'm like, oh, hey, Don, how's things? We're hanging out. He says, do you know Nancy Berry? I said, as a matter of fact, I don't. Nancy, how do you do? Nancy introduces me to Ken. Ken is the chairman of Virgin. Ken and Branson were the guys. So 5 minutes later at this convention, there's Ken Berry standing by himself, tapping his foot to some distant beat, all alone. And you know what? I didn't know if I was going to have another opportunity. Hey, Ken, can we chat for just a minute? Yeah, absolutely. What are you going to talk about? What? And you know what? I treated him, and I said, I'm going to treat you like we're close friends. Since we're probably only going to have this moment, I'm going to treat you like we're very close friends. I want to ask you about some things, because I was right in the middle of making this decision about this Virgin job. And I treated this guy, I didn't make him start over with me. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to like somebody who likes you? Right? And a lot of the jobs that you're going to find, people will hire people that they like. You can be more qualified and not get the job. Maybe you're just offensive. Maybe you're a twerp. Maybe you're a smartass. Right? And maybe the other guy who knew a little less was a little more genial, a little more gentlemanly, a little nicer. Right? What's the worst thing a woman can do in an interview situation? The worst thing? Coquette. It'll cost you the gig. Right? Because women have to come in on the same level and be strong and forceful and opinionated. And if you bring in that element, that coquettish element, it'll cost you your gig. I promise you, you won't get the job. Time management. I get to work very early. I'm at the office by 7:30 usually, and I leave by about 6. So I spend a lot of time at it. I wear a headset, don't use a phone. I do 75 calls out and maybe 100 in. I use a dictaphone to maintain my track of my ideas, and I write a lot. I had a job interview once. I'm glad I remembered this because I wanted to tell the story. I had a job interview when I was at Arista, and it was a job at Warner Chapel, big thing, and I was desperate to go to Warner Chapel. And the guy who was interviewing me was a guy named Chuck Hay, who was legendary. Chuck Hay was part of Rondor, he was part of the whole Beach Boys thing. He was the son of Lester Sill, but rest his soul, man, had just passed away. And I knew this was a huge, I knew this was the biggest meeting of my life. How did I know? Because when the secretary called to schedule the meeting, I said, no, I don't know you guys. How do you know me? And she said, well, we're not sure if the recommendation came from the Senate or the White House. I was like, I'll be there with bells on. It had so happened that a Supreme Court justice was the father of a friend of mine who was kind enough to pass my resume to his golf partner, who was kind enough to give it to somebody at MTV, who was kind enough to give it to Chuck Kay. So this one little piece of paper went through lots of government offices. And I knew this was a crucial moment in my life, right? But I wanted to be able to contradict the guy if it came to that, right? But I didn't want to be a smartass. So this is what I did. This is my great trick, guys. This is like the coolest thing I ever came up with, I think. Ready? I treated him as though he were somebody I already liked. I treated him like my Uncle Bill, who I loved. And I talked to him, even though he was Chuck K and we'd never met before, and it was crucial and all the marbles and all that other stuff. I was sitting having a conversation with my Uncle Bill. When he said something wrong, I said, you can't do it that way. Just like I'd say to my Uncle Bill. And you know what? That was a great meeting. Right? Because it was easy for him. Right? Here was somebody who wasn't BSing him. Here was somebody who wasn't changing themselves to hopefully be something he would like more. I was being myself, and I was treating him like somebody I already liked. So you go into that terrifying interview situation, right? You got your resume through it, you got so much riding on this meeting. Your palms are sweating, oh God, you're all anxious. Find somebody they look like. Find somebody they remind you of. An aunt, an uncle, a mom, a dad, a brother, me, whoever. And treat them and start the relationship that much further ahead. Don't make them prove themselves to you. If you don't think what they're saying is funny, say, it's not very funny. Be careful. But treat them like somebody you like, and that interview will go much, much better. Questions? Yes, your name, please? Hi, Mike. Well, if I were going to hear from anybody here, it would be probably because of a creative situation, and I'd like to hear their A&R tape. I think if you do that A&R tape, like we were talking about with Seth, I think that will give you something that you can send to somebody, and you can say, hey, we had a guy come to our school who talked about this Clive Davis tape. I made up a tape. Would you like to listen? Everybody knows this thing, okay? So for me, I think resumes can be pretty stilted, especially when all you've done is go to school, right? You don't have work experience yet. How are you going to translate your passion, your intellect, your dreams, your soulfulness? How are you going to put that onto a piece of paper? I have no idea. I have no idea. How about a cassette letter? How about a video cassette of you? How about something to make you stand different? Seth?
With respect to the Clive Davis tape, there's only two parts, the past tape and then the
Present and future.
And in the future?
Well, present and future. I mean, it would be what's now that's going, whether they have a record deal or not. I mean, maybe it's some unsigned band. I mean, let's say you sent me a tape and you said and all your past tape was loads of cool stuff on it, and your future tape had lots of cool stuff on it, right? And let's say I signed a band that was on your future tape. And I say, okay, you can be my A&R guy for Boston, the Northeast. I'll give you $100 a week expenses and no insurance. All right? I'd do that if there was a tape, if there was a band on your new tape that I loved. Yeah, I'd be all over that. You helped me make a crucial point. If you have to show your company that you work for how to make money before you show them how to spend their money. With me? Show me how to make money before you come with $1 million purchasing program. Right? Well, I want to sign Bon Jovi, and I want to sign. No. Show me how to make money. Send one of my songs out there. Get somebody really stupid to cover Rapture. Make me a few bucks, and then I'll let you spend some of my money. Other questions? Yes.
What are the last two acts?
I just signed a band called Catherine on TBT Records, which is a fantastic album, by the way. Great album. You want to see what my ears are all about? That would be it. I love that record, Catherine, on TBT. I signed Kipper Jones, who is a former Virgin artist, who's had the #1 song, I Want to Be Down, that he wrote for Brandy. And I'm about to sign the Reverend Horton Heat. You guys know the Rev? The Rev is really, really expensive. I'm a little nervous. I'm giving him enough money that if he fails, I look like an idiot. And you only get to look like an idiot a couple of times. Yes. What's your name, please?
Fred?
I wasn't actually looking at you, Fred, but we'll start with you. That's okay. You had the For Love Not Lisa comment.
Could you please explain to me of what Crystal Records is? I mean, record company, but they're not a music.
You know I don't work at Chrysalis Records.
Oh, sorry.
You don't know that, okay.
No,
Strike two. You know, you hear a guy whiff at a fastball, you can hear it miles away. Chrysalis Music Group, I'm a music publisher. We did own Chrysalis Records, but we sold it. Was that your question?
No, I want you to understand what's the major purpose of your publishing company?
The major purpose is to create, protect, and promote the musical copyrights that we acquire. The gentleman behind Fred. What's your name? Panos? P-A-N-O-S?
Here we are, the first batch of presidents and seniors from Berklee College. And years, yeah. I guess we are kind of unique as a group because we have music as a background, but we also know the business aspect of it. And I would like to talk a bit about the balance between education and experience, and also how would you look at the resume coming from somebody like us?
Education versus experience. Your education is going to continue throughout your business life. Let me tell you this, okay? It's not like you walk out of here and you know something. You walk out of here, you have the basis of knowledge. 15 years from now, you'll know something. And you know what? I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to learn still. Areas for me, people management, international finance, big money issues I didn't get, right? Just because of the nature of my schooling, the way my schooling was a little messed up. So I don't have that thorough financial background that I should have. You're always learning. You happen to be in a highly intensive educational, theoretical period right now. And what you would have to prove to me, what I would expect to hear, because I had a chance to tour the school and ask a lot of questions, and I think you guys, you men and women who are doing this, I think you have such an opportunity, because you are in an environment where you can ask questions of people where it's not costing them money. Right? If you worked for me and you asked me me a question, I got maybe 5 minutes to answer it. But if you've got a professor here who's been there on the firing line, then you can do it that way. So I look at education as something that continues forever. I look at this as an intense part. On your resume, what can it say? I went to Berklee College of Music. I graduated. I got through it. I survived. And I play a mean piccolo. There's not enough jazz piccolo players. I just want to go on record saying, thank God. The resume is very tough. The resume is a very difficult thing, because how do you stand out from the crowd? How can you make yourself appear differently? I get quite a few resumes, right? But at the same time, I do a lot of hiring. So I think the best thing to do is to write a great letter. And if your resume is flinty, because you haven't done enough yet, okay, don't try and blow it up into something it's not, right? If you had an hour's experience in some radio lab, don't turn that into something. You see people where they were filing, but it's like alphabetizing medical records. Thank you. Other questions? Yes. What's your name? Aisha. Good question. My short-term goal is to make my plane, which leaves at 6. My son's birthday is tomorrow. He's 3. I want him to have a great birthday. My 2-year goal. I don't have a 1-year goal at the moment because I have 2 years left on my contract with my employer. My 2-year goal is to blow my company up, right? In the monetary sense, to blow it up because I have a profit participation. That if I blow this up, there's a term that in business, I can't say it because it's impolite, but it has to do with the type of money, that you have enough money that you can say anything to anybody. You fill in what those 2 words are. I would be on my way to getting that money if I do this right. So my 2-year goal is to have my company have 2 more multi-platinum successes and several smaller seedling successes. And then I want to be, at some stage, I want to be the president of a company that I run, that I own, that I am spending somebody else's money. I don't want to spend my own money. Right? I want to spend Polygram's money, for instance. Or I want to spend Warner Brothers' money. I want somebody to come and say, hey, you were president of that company for 12 years. You took it from a $1.8 million company to a $15 million company. We like you. Here's $50 million. Build us a publishing company. That's what I want to do. I also want to write a screenplay. I want to survive to my son's 30th birthday. I want to have a great relationship with my mom. Those are my goals. Questions? Yes. Your name, please?
Harold?
Harold?
Yeah.
Hi, Harold.
Can you further explain like what's wrong with the word?
Was that not clear how I meant it? It's not that you can't ever use that word. It's just that the word, that it points to the limits of why you know something. If you think you're explaining to somebody how you know something, I know this because of these 3 reasons. Instead of supporting an argument for your intelligence, it supports an argument for the limit of your intelligence.
So how do you get around that?
Who said that? What's your name?
God.
I mean, how do you, I mean, for example, your point, let's say, what's the last record you bought, Scott? Sausage. Is that the band or is it the album?
Okay.
Don't know them. What do you like about them?
Yeah, what's the groove? I heard one song and it sounded really cool. So,
What did it remind you of?
well, it reminds me of Friday.
Those are good answers. As soon as you put because in there, right? Hey, Tom, you know I really like this band. I like this band because they remind me of... It's a different thing. Because shows that you're pointing to your limits, as opposed to you just answering the question. Why do you like them? I like them. They remind me of so-and-so. Oh, thank you. Maybe it's too subtle. You know, maybe it's goofy. And it's not like I look for people when they're saying because and I go, oh, yeah, he said because. Right? If you happen to use because, you happen to use it. I'm just saying that it's, I guess it's more than just the use of the word because. It's that if you explain what you don't know, you're cutting yourself off at the knees. What's your name?
Sean.
Hi, Sean.
How many artists do you have working on the actual
How many artists? You mean how many writers?
Yeah.
You guys understand this concept, right? Writers work for a publishing company. They may be artists, but I don't own their artist rights. We only own their song, their copyrights. We have a lot of successful artists. I say a lot of successful writers. Probably we send out, I'd say we dispense about $1.7, maybe $1.8 million twice a year to probably 60 people. Mind you, Paul Anka gets a big swig of that bottle, and so does Ian Anderson, who's still like our most successful writer. David Bowie, Billy Idol, Big Watts, big Watts. One more question, and it would be from that gentleman. And your name?
Pete?
Pete?
Yeah, what's the best or most effective way to get a demo into somebody's hands that is high on the ladder the business.
Is this a demo of a band, or is this demo like we're talking about with Seth there in the back?
Like a demo of a band, like my demo or
Your band, for example. By sheer coincidence, your band. I'll tell you something. If it were me, let me give you this in a nutshell. If it were me, I would put out my own record.
I mean your own CD on your
Yeah.
own little.
Yeah, I would find a way to do it, because then you got something to show people. You show your professors, you show that really cute girl in your composition class you want to meet. Hey, you see my CD? And then you have something that you can send to me. Dear Tom, here's the CD I've released. I've sold out my first pressing. Getting ready to do another one, thought you might like to hear it. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't cost that much money to do 500 records. Right? And there's a company, I'm going to tell this one Steve Gottlieb story and then I'll be finished. Steve Gottlieb is a very dear friend of mine, went to Yale, went to Harvard Business School. He was serving out his sentence at some Ivy League black shoes with those two little things on them, Wall Street law firm, and he realized it wasn't what he wanted to do. And he had this idea that if he put out a record of TV theme songs, that people would buy it. Right? Hazel, Bewitched, the Flintstones. So in 1985, he put out this record and started his own record company, TVT Records, out of his living room. Right? Licensed all the rights to the songs, got them all so he didn't have to pay any royalties. And he put out this record which has since sold almost 2 million copies, and his record company now has the Cannells, 9 Inch Nails, etc. So it's very, very possible to do almost anything. You are limited only by your ability to dream. That's your only limitation. Right? I had no idea I would be here in a place like this today. Right? I'm a kid, right? I'm a punk. I didn't finish graduate school. Right? But a lot of people look to me now. Right? I never could have dreamed I would have been here. Right? But here I am. So, thank you all so very much. I've enjoyed this, and Brianna, I'll see you later. Thanks, Tom. Great presentation. I just wanted to say that on the way over this morning from the hotel, Tom